So I want to talk about the recent shooting in El Paso, but also talk about the President Trump's response and what I've observed people saying and writing about. Because I think that it's relevant, and I think that it's important, and I think it's important to get the message across. So, basically, as most of you are aware, unless you don't watch the news at all, is that there was a shooting in El Paso where a lot of people died and a lot of people were injured. Now, I don't want to get into the specifics and the details because you guys can look that all up for yourself. But what I do want to say is President Trump's address to the nation in response to the shooting. And it wasn't just one shooting. There was other ones. There was one in Dayton, Ohio. And there was one before El Paso that was in Mississippi. I mean, there's shootings that happen probably all the time. It's just a lot of times shootings become politicized. And that's when Democrats will try to push for stricter gun laws. Because a lot of them don't really believe strongly in the Second Amendment. And so anytime that some tragedy like this occurs, however it happened, or whatever the circumstance was, they'll use these things to try to push an agenda that they have, even if it goes right in the face of what most people really want in the country. They're self-seeking their own agenda. And that's clear. Everybody has their own agenda, right? So, the thing that I wanted to talk about, though, in this video has to do with Trump talking about how we really need to focus more on stronger background checks, and he also touched on video games. And what I noticed is that a lot of people seem to be very upset about that. Not everyone, but a lot of people. And especially on Facebook, because I will observe what people are saying and writing, and it just amazes me. And again, this is my opinion, but it amazes me how when the president simply offers a solution to addressing the situation of people going around killing each other, to have stronger background checks, that a whole group of people would suddenly conclude that that means that he, the president, is infringing on their Second Amendment. And I just find that very odd. And what's even worse is that when they conclude these things, then the next logical thing that they're considering is to not even vote for him. Now, hear me out, everybody. I'm a pretty intelligent person, I think. If you care about your Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, and you know what the alternative is, all of the Democrats, however many there are, and you know that what their stance is on the Second Amendment, why on earth would you ever vote, or not even vote for that matter, somebody that doesn't care about protecting your Second Amendment? It doesn't make any sense. And it's actually really scary that some folks would actually think this. Because think about it. You might think that by not voting, you're neutral, or you're not going to affect anything either way. But actually, you still are. Because one less vote for Donald Trump means possibly one more vote for a Democrat candidate that could possibly win. And therefore, you could actually end up helping the Democrat get elected, which would severely inhibit your Second Amendment. So, is it really a good strategy to say, I'm just going to sit home? No, it isn't. It's actually pretty dumb, especially if you love your country and you love your freedoms and your rights. Does it mean everything might be perfect and grand, way that exactly how you want it? No, but nothing actually in life is. Put this stuff into perspective, people. You're not going to get everything that you want. So you got to think smart, and you got to think about, okay, what's the next best thing that I can do? Well, just think about the fact that the National Rifle Association is on good terms with the president. The president hasn't shown that he wants to take your guns away or anything like that. Now you might think, well, this is just one step closer, and then the Democrats gain control, and then they'll use this bill that Trump passes, and they'll further it down the road, eventually leading to all of your guns being taken away. But you have no absolute certainty if that's actually going to occur. And your own assumptions could actually be more detrimental in you losing completely your Second Amendment. You don't know the future. I don't know the future. But yet a lot of people seem to think that they do. A lot of people are basing, and they're putting assumptions into a lot of things to try to determine what their actions or what their decisions will be. And that isn't very smart either. You need to look at the facts, okay? And so far, Donald Trump hasn't shown at all that he wants to take anybody's guns away. He's simply offering a common sense solution to something that has upset a lot of families. I mean, imagine if you were the president of a country and there was a terrible shooting. You had to go see these families that lost their loved ones. You can't just get up there on the TV and not say anything, not offer any solution. It's a problem. And what do we do when we have problems? We gotta look at it, and we gotta figure out maybe if there's something that we can do to fix that problem. What I believe he's trying to do is he's not trying to infringe on anybody's rights. He's not even trying to take away your guns or anything like that, because I'm sure that Donald Trump loves the Second Amendment. But what he is trying to do is, while preserving your rights, while protecting your rights, at the same time, he's trying to figure out maybe some solutions to make people safe. That's it. Because you don't want bad people to be carrying around weapons. First of all, it is a blessing to live in a country where you have freedoms. A lot of people take that for granted. But, you know, when you have these freedoms, you also have to be responsible. And a lot of people think that it should be the Wild West. But it isn't the Wild West. It's 2019. And while you might like it a certain way, it is just not the case. So I think it's a real tragedy if people are seriously considering, at least on Facebook and some of the comments that I've seen, people actually considering not even voting or not voting for Donald Trump. Now hear me out. If he was to go completely bananas, or he was to completely do something totally off the wall that I didn't think was good at all, or he stopped keeping his word, or he came out and he said, I support abortion on demand, I support, all these things that I don't stand for, then I would seriously reconsider and probably wouldn't vote for him. But I'm looking at the evidence and what I know, and then I'm deciding, okay, this is probably the best thing to do for the country. Now, this is, still like a year away because it's not till November next year. But I still thought I'd make a video to talk about this because if people are seriously considering this, when they know what the alternative is, I don't see how that's any better. Because it's not. If you really care about your guns, then you're going to pick the person that has the best record or that seems to be doing the best to protect those guns, to protect that Second Amendment, right? I mean, that's what common sense would say. But for whatever reason, maybe these folks that are saying these types of things are just trolls. Maybe they aren't actually real Trump supporters. Maybe they're just fake accounts trying to persuade or influence other people not to vote for him. So maybe they're from actually the other side, pretending that they're actually on our side, when in all reality they're not. Because you know how easy it is to make a fake account on Twitter or on Facebook, and you can write and you can influence and you can deceive lots of people. So I thought I'd have to say something about this because I just thought it was crazy, and I think that people should really, really pay attention to this. And if you come across people that actually say Donald Trump is going to take away all your guns and Donald Trump is attacking your Second Amendment, reply to them and tell them no, that's actually not the case. He's repeatedly said that he is very pro Second Amendment and that he doesn't want to take your guns away. So that's what I'll say about the gun thing. The second thing that I want to talk about is the video game thing, where he said that we got to look into these violent video games. It's true that every time sometimes a big shooting or whatever happens and it gets all of the attention from the media and the politicians get involved and it starts becoming politicized, that they tend to go after those certain things, and video games tend to be one of them. But as some people say, they go after just the video games and not the movies. That isn't the case with Donald Trump. Donald Trump's actually going after Hollywood and after the movies too that they put out. And let's face it, if we're all intellectually honest with ourselves, a lot of the movies and a lot of the games are really violent, and they do glorify violence, and they do desensitize everybody to violence and evil and these things. Let's be real. Let's not kid ourselves. That's the truth. If you watch that kind of stuff and you play that kind of stuff all the time, you can become desensitized to it. And while it may not cause you to do crazy things, that's not to say that it couldn't cause somebody else to do something crazy, because not everybody's mentally stable. Especially for kids growing up that haven't fully developed and that are exposed to those things at a young age, they may be more susceptible, possibly. So it's not as simple as just saying, oh, video games don't cause this or video games don't cause that. That's really naive. Maybe the data isn't there conclusively to show any kind of link, but it doesn't mean that there's absolutely no way on heaven or earth that could be the case. It's just that we maybe don't have all of the information or data yet. I mean, common sense would tell us that, of course, there's people that watch crazy violent movies or play crazy violent games that do go out and commit those types of things because they're so disconnected from reality, that they're so invested and connected to the virtual reality, to the game that they're playing, that it does desensitize them so much that they actually think that they're doing these things in a video game out in the real world. That can happen, and I'm sure that it has happened. So it's not being intellectually honest with folks if you don't admit that. Initially I thought, video games wouldn't cause people to do that. But you know what? Sometimes it isn't so much about strategy either when it comes to thinking about getting reelected. A lot of people have tried to say that Donald Trump was really dumb when he decided to go after the video game industry, that he would have lost maybe millions of people's support. I'm sure Donald Trump was fully aware of this beforehand and probably had considered that. I don't believe that he's completely oblivious to that fact. But I got thinking that perhaps he looked at this differently. Instead of going about it by reason alone, maybe he decided to do this based on his faith. You know, maybe he's walking by faith rather than by reason alone. Maybe he thinks that by saying something that isn't politically correct, you know, or that maybe everybody would like him to say, maybe he's rather following his conscience and doing what he, or saying what he knows to be true. Maybe he feels this way in his heart, and he's just speaking out, because out of the mouth, the heart revealeth itself, right? So it's possible that that's why he did that. Maybe he really believes and feels this way, and so he's acting true to himself, not what reason would tell him to do, or not what everybody else would tell him to do. And that's something that is important too when you have a strong leader. And maybe a lot of people haven't even considered that. It's just something that I was considering when I was, thinking about this. And it could actually end up having the reverse effect. He possibly could garner more support because of it. Perhaps God will bless him for that. And not only that, but whatever you think about video games, or them looking more into it, hey, if there isn't any data that shows that there is a problem linking that with these violent acts right now, then perhaps we do need to look more into it, like he says. Let's try to research this out more. Let's try to find answers. What's wrong with saying that? Because that's all that he was saying. What is wrong with trying to learn more about this? When a lot of people are complacent and they just want to say, nah. Imagine if they did that with tobacco back in the day. Imagine if people were just like, nah, there's no proven science that shows that tobacco causes lung cancer or anything like that. It's just this ignorance, and it's this unwillingness to want to learn, or to ask questions, or to look for solutions. That's something that should be done. Whether you want to say that's the politics or not. Even if you weren't a politician, that's still something that some ordinary, regular person should think about, or that they do. And what's even more crazy is when you really think about this stuff a lot, you wouldn't let your 2-year-old or 3-year-old play this violent video game. And these are the people that are most targeted and that could possibly have the most devastating effects on is the young, really young. Because if the parents aren't responsible and they're allowing their kids to play these games when they're not even in the right rating or age group, then that can have some consequences. I mean, that's the whole point that we have ratings on video games. But those laws, those ratings, those things are only as good as if people follow them. But that doesn't mean that just because people won't follow them, that the government isn't responsible and that shouldn't put these good laws or things in place. If we want a good society, then these things must be there. But we need to think about this stuff with common sense and logic. So I urge everybody that watches this video to really think rationally about all of this and put it into perspective. And before condemning someone like the president, think about it rationally. Think about if you were president, Think about if you had to visit all those families that lost loved ones. And think about how a lot of people just don't have all the facts. They don't have all the facts. They make a lot of assumptions, and their assumptions can lead to catastrophic effects. So we need to be more humble. We need to be more wise. And if we make judgments, we need to make it with a right judgment and not just by an appearance. You might think that this could be bad, but actually, you're just basing it on what you think, not what actually may really be true. So, with that, guys, please take it serious because your country is important. And, you know, I actually believe, I think from everything that he has done so far as president, that he's certainly shown himself to be someone that does love the country. And he definitely is somebody that I've seen that wants to uphold law and order. And a lot of people don't like that because a lot of people are law breakers, because the natural tendency of man is not goodness, but it's evil. And a lot of people don't want to follow rules or laws for the same reason that people don't want to follow or seek after God. So think about that. And with that, guys, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Let's try to get like at least 100 likes on this video, and share it around and let other people know, and make the good decision next November, okay? Because we all need to unite and we need to save our country. We really do. If you love the Constitution of the United States, if you love your freedoms, then you got to vote for the guy that's standing up for you and for the country. And he's taking on these people that hate him every day, these big media establishment, and all of the corruption that goes on. Sometimes you just have to say this kind of stuff, you know? So, there you go.